In the meantime, China urged the United States to immediately free Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro and his wife after a U.S. strike on Caracas led to their capture. The Chinese Foreign Ministry labeled the operation a violation of international law and an effort to topple Venezuela's government. The demand underscores escalating friction between Beijing and Washington over Latin American influence.
不认为哪一个国家可以充当国际警察，我们也不认同哪一个国家可以自诩为国际法官。各国的主权和安全都应当受到国际法的充分保护。我们一贯反对在国际关系中使用或威胁使用武力，反对将一国的意志强加于别国。中方愿意同包括巴基斯坦在内的国际社会一道，坚定捍卫联合国宪章，坚守国际道义底线，坚持各国主权平等，共同来维护世界的和平与发展，共同来推动构建人类命运的共同体。
For more on this, I'm joined by our senior international correspondent and anchor, Afua Hagan. Afua, Nicolás Maduro is set to appear before the U.S. court today to find out what the charges are that are leveled against him. But this is quite a very funny situation. I would like to start off from the United States saying that they are in charge of Venezuela's, the country at large, and the oil in Venezuela. I'd like to get an understanding of that to start with.
Well, yes, the United States have pretty much said that they are now in charge of Venezuela, as you so rightly said. So what does that mean and for how long? Okay, so President Donald Trump, when asked over the weekend who was in charge of Venezuela, he said, "We're in charge." Trump has also said that the USA needs total access to oil that's tied to rebuilding Venezuela, to regime change, anything you want to call it. That's a direct quote from him. This capture obviously creates deep uncertainty, and this is completely Washington's most controversial incursion into Latin America in decades. But what does this incursion mean in operational terms? So let's remember that the United States at the moment have control over Maduro's detention. He's going to be in court later on in New York today, around noon, New York time, around 5 p.m. Lagos time. You've got pressure on the incoming president from the United States as well, basically saying that she needs to do what the United States want. You have that commission that's been set up to enable them to work towards Maduro's release. But what will that entail for the Venezuelan incoming president as well? You've got the security posture around this also. You know, the United States, Washington, framing this as removing someone who is illegitimately in power, coming to help a country that has had some huge economic problems. And therefore, that's where the oil comes in, right? The United States running the oil fields that used to be much more productive than they are now. If you have United States companies coming in, controlling Venezuelan oil, making it more productive, where does that money go? Now, Trump is saying that it's going towards rebuilding the country. Rebuilding which country, I think, is a question that a lot of people are asking. Is that money going to go towards rebuilding Venezuela, or will it be funneled back into the United States? And that's a really important question as well that's being posed. So yes, the United States framing this as saving a country from a dictator, but now taking control of that country's oil fields.
Okay, we also understand that China has publicly demanded Maduro's release and has called the U.S. action a violation of international law. What does this mean for the U.S.-China relations and global diplomatic fallout?
Yes, you saw China in that clip that you had really responding to what the United States have done and saying that they want to avoid the law of the jungle dynamics. That's a quote from the Chinese. So what this means for the US-China relationship, the UN Security Council has said, or at the UN Security Council, rather, China positioned to push hardest for the formal condemnation. It wants emergency debates. It wants resolutions. This is a real clash of both narratives here. This could end up in retaliation in some way, shape, or form. It's plausible. It's not entirely guaranteed, but that could be another pressure point. And that retaliation could be in trade, in tech, in security between the two countries. There's a real split between the countries here in how they would handle Maduro, would handle his illegitimacy to be in power. China definitely wouldn't be wading in to take over the country as the United States have done. They're at polar opposites when it comes to their opinion on Maduro and how they would handle them. And so for their relationship, this is very difficult. And like I said, if this escalates between the US and China, you could see that retaliation, which could come in the form of tech, and which could come in the form of their economy and trade between the two countries, how that could work.
Okay, let's take a look at how other global regional actors are responding to the U.S. strike and Maduro's detention, especially considering that the U.S. has a bilateral relationship with a lot of other countries, including Nigeria. And people are saying that if the U.S. had an agreement with Venezuela in terms of oil, and now that, there's been this fallout, they think that they are in charge. What does that mean for other countries that have these sorts of agreements with the U.S.? Nigeria, for example, has signed numerous agreements with the U.S., and people are saying this is why you need to be careful what arrangements you have with the United States. So is there a coordinated pushback amongst these countries?
So countries at the moment are kind of falling into different brackets in how they are responding to what the U.S. has done in terms of Venezuela. So there's no unified bloc in any way, shape, or form. You have one set of countries that has gone for total condemnation of the U.S. force and called for de-escalation. That's Mexico, that's Brazil, some of our other EU countries, EU Commission, Denmark, Norway, are stressing the importance of international law and restraint. The United Kingdom said this morning that they are yet to decide if any international law was broken by the United States with their incursion into Venezuela. That's according to our Home Office Minister, Mike Tapp. And then you've got other countries who are talking about transition, framing and supporting a democratic transition from one leader to another, but also outlining that this needs to be done in a legal way. So that's France, that's Germany, that's Argentina as well, saying that, yes, it's a good thing that you have an illegitimate leader who has been ousted, but it needs to be done in a legitimate way. And then you've got other countries like China, like I said, who have gone for this angle of total condemnation. So you've got different brackets of different countries who are responding in different ways. And this could be because of the bilateral agreements that they have with the United States, or it could just be that their political stance is one way or the other. But there is no unified bloc, and not every country is responding in the same way to the US's actions in Venezuela.
All right, Afua, before we let you go, another very interesting development in this whole twist. Now, Trump has issued a warning to Venezuela's new interim leader. And we also understand that the likes of Maria Corina Machado, who have, referenced Donald Trump for the longest time, now seem to be at loggerhead. Donald Trump doesn't seem to trust any of them. So what's the warning about? Is he trying to tell them to steer clear of power, and what's at stake here?
Well, Trump's warning is about him wanting the next leader to toe the line, and that line is, we have removed someone that we don't agree with, and we are coming in to control the oil. We are in charge, and you're going to do what we say. Basically, that is the bottom line that the US have put forward. Delcy Rodriguez has been told, she's the incoming vice president, that if she doesn't do what's right, she will pay a very big price, probably bigger than Maduro. And we can all read between the lines. We all know what that means. If you don't do what we say, we will remove you in the same way that we have done to your leader. Now, let's remember that Delcy Rodriguez is very much a foot soldier of Maduro, lots of public appearances with him, definitely one of his trusted inner circle. So do we think that she is going to do what the United States wants? Well, at the moment, she set up that commission to have Maduro freed. She's very much a supporter of him. So how strong is her political ambition? How much does she want to pay in power? How faithful is she to Maduro? We're going to find that out in the coming weeks. The United States have said, like I said, if she doesn't do what's right, then she will be removed. If she's seen as capitulating to the United States, then she risks fracturing the internal support she has. If she resists, then the US will remove her. At the moment, she's taking a conciliatory tone. It's very tactical. She's invited US officials to cooperate with the framework of international law, and she's the ultimate test will be whether she gives total access to Trump's team and the people that want to come in and run the Venezuelan oil fields. That will really be the ultimate test of her loyalty to Maduro or how much she wants to stay in power.
All right, News Central's international correspondent and anchor Afua Hagan bringing us an update on the capture of Venezuela's President Nicolás Maduro based on the alleged narco-terrorism. And of course, he will be appearing in court alongside his wife today to find out the charges leveled against him. And of course, people are still trying to understand the context with which the U.S. president declared that they are in charge of Venezuela and the oil.